10 years ago, a sudden disaster completely changed the trajectory of my life. A girl's false accusation turned me from a respected teacher into a pervert who was hated by everyone and also broke up my happy family. 10 years later, fate played a ridiculous joke on me. I married the girl who framed me that year, Jessica, but on the wedding night, it was a bloody storm. Her whole family died. When the police arrived, I was pouring gasoline in the yard, preparing to burn down the place that carried my endless pain. In the interrogation room, the lights were pale and the policemen looked incredulous. They talked to me at once, telling me how lucky I was to marry a young, beautiful, and talented woman like Jessica. She is 20 years younger than you, a real young wife. This is what many men dream of. The top scorer in the college entrance examination, a top student from Peking University and Tsinghua University, has achieved extraordinary success at a young age, does not want a dowry, a house, or a car, and is determined to marry you despite her family's opposition. How could you? The Liu family, a total of 28 people, young and old, were all killed. This is a serious criminal case of an extremely serious nature. The police investigation found that they all died of poisoning, and someone put the pesticide dichlorvos in the food. But the amount of dichlorvos was too much, and the taste and color could easily arouse suspicion, and the small amount was not fatal. So the murderer also kept a trick and added a large amount of sleeping pills to the food. Even if they noticed something was wrong, they were powerless to save themselves. This is not the end because it was cold. Everyone closed the doors and windows and chatted in the house. The charcoal fire for heating in the house can easily cause carbon monoxide poisoning. Dichlorvos, sleeping pills, carbon monoxide, any one of them can kill people, but the murderer used all three at the same time. The means were so vicious that it was obviously premeditated for a long time and did not give them a chance to survive. After being arrested, I remained silent. The police racked their brains based on the information they had, but still couldn't figure it out. At this point, you don't even want to tell me the reason for the murder? I pondered for a moment, looked up, and coldly spat out two words: revenge. Revenge. The police looked puzzled. What grudge could you have against the Liu family? I used to think that if someone asked me this question, I would be able to talk endlessly, indignantly accusing them of their crimes and expressing my grievances. But at this moment, facing the police's questioning, I was silent for a moment. The police sitting opposite me began to speculate. Is it because they once prevented you from marrying Jessica? But even so, the crime is not punishable by death. You are almost exterminating 9 generations of your family, which is too cruel. What hatred can make you do such a cruel thing? Hearing this, I clenched my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms. I asked coldly, does anyone remember the teacher molesting students case in 2013? Instantly, everyone in the interrogation room showed shocked expressions. I smiled and reminded them. The protagonist of that case was Jessica. In 2013, I was 32 years old and had just passed the teacher recruitment exam to become a male teacher. I devoted myself to teaching, loved my job, cared about my students, worked diligently, and thought I was honest. But just because of Jessica's words, I became a perverted person who was criticized overnight. At that time, Jessica was 12 years old and a 6th grade elementary school student. One day, Jessica's mother stormed into the school aggressively and accused me of molesting Jessica. The only evidence was a sentence in Jessica's diary. I like William so much. I like his handsome appearance. I like his warm smile. I like the smell of books on him. And I like his eyes full of knowledge and shining. When the school learned about this, they took it very seriously and called the police immediately. They also restricted my personal freedom and required me not to leave the school or contact the outside world before the police arrived. I had never done anything wrong, so I was naturally calm. Although I felt wronged and angry, I still actively cooperated with the school's arrangements. After the police came, I also fully cooperated with the investigation. During this period, Jessica's mother was like a shrew, beating and scolding me. After being pulled away by my school colleagues, she sat on the ground and cried. She didn't need any evidence at all, and convicted me based on her subjective assumptions. No matter how I explained, she turned a deaf ear. The police quickly understood what happened. I told them the details of my interactions with Jessica in class. This child loves to study and is very smart. She can learn things quickly and is a good candidate for study. The only shortcoming is that she doesn't like to talk. I feel that she has low self-esteem and doesn't dare to express herself for fear of making mistakes. So during class, I will consciously encourage her to raise her hand and speak more often. After class, I will also take the initiative to tutor her and enlighten her. She has never done anything out of line. Since it concerns students in compulsory education, the police attached great importance to it and launched a detailed investigation. My words were basically confirmed by questioning other students in the class, office teachers, and school administrators. The police also questioned Jessica, but because her mother was present, the child hardly spoke and her mother mostly answered for her. Jessica's mother said that after Jessica came back from my house that day, her lower body was itchy and she was restless. At first, she thought her daughter was beginning to develop and had normal physiological reactions and was planning to guide and educate her. But when she took off her pants, she saw that the skin there was torn and the problem was very serious. She rushed Jessica to the hospital for examination. The doctor said that Jessica was infected with some bacteria, and this infection mostly came from the opposite sex. When Jessica's mother heard this, she thought of Jessica's diary and determined that the opposite sex was me. But the key is that I was not at home that day. Only my wife and 3-year-old daughter were at home to look after the shop. The police retrieved the surveillance of the cake shop, and the footage showed that Jessica did come to the shop that day and stayed for about 20 minutes. From the moment she stepped into the shop, every minute and every second was recorded clearly, without any ambiguity or dispute. The police took these hard evidences and patiently placed them in front of Jessica's mother, thinking that the truth would be revealed. Unexpectedly, Jessica's mother put her hands on her hips and shouted at the top of her voice, "You are shielding him." A policeman advised earnestly, "The child was not violated. Isn't that good? Are you still hoping that something will happen to the child?" As soon as these words came out, Jessica's mother was more convinced that the police were protecting me. In an instant, tears and snot flowed, and she shouted, "As a woman, would I wrongly accuse someone of something like my daughter? You are just afraid of offending the teacher and affecting your own jobs. So you're so perfunctory. Is there still justice in this world?" I was so angry that I was shaking all over. I patted my chest and promised, "I can swear on my character that I have never done such a thing. Let Jessica come out and confront me." Before I finished speaking, Jessica ran out crying and shouted, "Teacher, no, he didn't violate me." Although Jessica is only 12 years old, children nowadays are exposed to a lot of information and have their own judgments on many things. Her words should have a certain degree of credibility. But Jessica's mother was like a mad lioness. She raised her hand and gave Jessica a loud slap in the face, scolding, "You shameless thing, you still don't tell the truth. Who else can it be but him?" Jessica was beaten so hard that she saw stars and was so scared that she dared not say a word. Jessica's mother pointed the finger at me again, saying viciously, "I don't know what kind of drug you gave my daughter. This matter will never end." Then, she posted the matter online. In 2013, the power of internet communication cannot be underestimated, and the sensitive topic of teachers assaulting students instantly became a traffic password. Jessica's mother cried to the camera with snot and tears. The school protects him, and the police also protect him. His family is rich, and money makes the world go round. We ordinary people can only suffer in silence. I am a rural woman who knows nothing, but I just want to seek justice for my daughter. If it weren't for their mutual protection, I wouldn't have posted the matter online. Which mother wants her daughter to be pointed at by others? Please help me. In just a few hours, this incident caused an uproar on the internet. Originally, the police believed that there was no fact of molestation and did not file a case. However, under the huge pressure of public opinion, they had to set up a special task force overnight to investigate. I was soon invited to the police station by the police on the grounds of assisting in the investigation. I hurriedly showed my high-speed rail ticket to another place that day to prove that I was not in the local area at the time of the incident, let alone met Jessica. My wife also confirmed to the police that Jessica came to the cake shop that day and did not mention what she wanted to see me for. Seeing that my wife was busy greeting customers and her daughter had no one to take care of her, Jessica took the initiative to stay and play with building blocks with her daughter. All of this was captured clearly by the cake shop's camera. In the video, Jessica and her daughter were having a lot of fun. Before leaving, my wife also gave her a small tiramisu cake. She took the cake and skipped away. I thought these evidences were enough to clear my name, but who could have imagined that Jessica suddenly changed her story? She claimed that I called her to my office alone under the guise of tutoring her and took off her pants when no one was around, more than once. What's more, she even said that I threatened her that if she told anyone, I would have her expelled from school. My head buzzed, and I was completely stunned. What made me speechless was that she also took out a painting as evidence, which was a painting of a man's private parts, which seemed to indicate that she had really seen it. I was so excited that I was shaking all over. I shouted in the police station, "Let Jessica confront me." Since she drew it so realistically, she must have seen some characteristics of me. As long as she can name one, I am willing to plead guilty. I would even accept going to jail or being shot. The result is predictable. Jessica hesitated and couldn't say anything. I was in a car accident and my thigh was severely scratched. I had 11 stitches and left a striking scar. If I really violated her, how could she not know? Jessica cried and argued. I was too scared at the time and didn't dare to look. She said this so clearly that even my wife almost believed it. After all, who would have thought that a 12-year-old child would use her innocence to frame others? I felt extremely helpless, and I knelt down in front of my wife, swearing with tears in my eyes. If I do something to let you down, I will let my mother live in the 18th level of hell forever and never be reborn. My father died in an accident when I was very young. My mother and I depended on each other for survival. She worked hard to support me to go to college. She is the person I care about most in my life. My wife knows this very well. Later, my mother died because of this unexpected disaster. It seemed that I suddenly looked down on fame and fortune in the world. I resolutely quit my high-paying job with an annual salary of $1 million and returned to my hometown with my wife and children. We used our savings to buy a 3-story villa in the town. We renovated the first floor into a cake shop and let my wife run it. The second and third floors are our warm home. I was born in a poor family. I was able to change my destiny through studying, which was inseparable from the careful guidance of my teachers on the road to study. With a grateful heart, I passed the teacher's examination and became an elementary school mathematics teacher. My wife and I were college classmates. We started dating at the age of 18 and have walked through 14 springs, summers, autumns, and winters hand in hand. Listening to my tearful narration, she naturally believed me unconditionally. Don't worry, I will hire the best lawyer for you right away. I will never let you suffer injustice, and I will not allow anyone to use such despicable means to frame the child's father. My wife's words were like a shot of adrenaline, which rekindled my hope. But who could have thought that the nightmare would come again the next day? The police let me go home, and I thought the truth of the case had been solved and I could finally be cleared of all charges. But when I got home, the scene in front of me made me feel like I was falling into an ice cave. The door of my house was full of people, and the police surrounded the house with a cordon, and many police officers were nervously collecting evidence. The bodies of my wife and daughter were covered with white cloth and quietly placed aside. A policeman patted me on the shoulder and said sadly, "Look, the building is too high, and there is no buffer, so they died on the spot." I staggered into the yard and saw that on the glass window of the cake shop, someone had spray painted, "Those who commit adultery with other people's wives and daughters will have their wives and daughters bullied by others." The blood-red handwriting, set off by the shocking bloodstains on the ground, hurt my eyes. The police told me that a group of people broke into my house last night and tried to rape my wife. In order to protect herself and our daughter, my wife fled all the way to the top floor. With nowhere else to go, she jumped with her daughter in her arms. Even with the cushioning of my wife's body, my daughter's small body still fell miserably, and even the police who were collecting evidence at the scene couldn't bear to watch. Although the police didn't say it explicitly, I knew in my heart that it must have been done by someone from the Liu family, most likely Jessica's cousins. They were a group of young people in their early 20s. They broke into my house and committed a heinous crime, and then fled without a trace that night. Everyone around was afraid of the power of the Liu family, and no one dared to come out to testify. The cameras in the house were also deliberately destroyed by them. I went completely crazy, picked up a knife, and rushed to Jessica's house. The Liu family seemed to have expected it. The offenders fled, and even their parents hid, leaving only Jessica's 80-year-old grandmother at home. The old lady held an iron rake, took a defensive posture, and looked at me vigilantly. I rushed into the yard and saw such a white-haired old man. His hands seemed to be bound by invisible shackles, and his anger was rampant in his body, but he had no way to vent. However, the old lady of the Liu family still did not escape. After a forensic examination, it was determined that she died of excessive shock. I was arrested by the police. At that moment, I had no desire to live and responded negatively to everything. In the end, I was sentenced to 3 years in prison for manslaughter. In prison, I tried to commit suicide many times, but was rescued again and again. Later, I suddenly realized that if I died like this, wouldn't my wife and daughter have died in vain? Hatred became my only motivation to live. I swore that one day, I would make the Liu family pay a painful price and make them extinct. 3 years later, I was released from prison. I was 35 years old that year, and Jessica was 15 years old, already a freshman in high school. She was originally gifted and could excel with a little guidance. But after that incident, she left her hometown in junior high school and went to study in the county where her grandmother lived. Her high school entrance examination results were not satisfactory, and she was only admitted to an ordinary high school. I went through a lot of trouble to find out her school and learned that the incident had a great impact on her over the years. In the past few years, she has almost no friends, does everything alone, and is perfunctory in her studies. Her grades are neither good nor bad, and almost no teachers pay special attention to her. That day, I ran into her when I was handing out flyers for tutoring at the school gate. We recognized each other at first sight. When the police heard this, they held their breath and asked hurriedly, "What did you do to her?" In prison, I imagined countless times the scene of meeting the Liu family again, and I also thought about whether I could control the urge to strangle Jessica to death when I saw her. I wanted a happy family, a stable and decent job, and a warm and peaceful life. But because of her lie, everything came to nothing. However, this reunion was much calmer than I imagined. Jessica was in her prime, with skin as white as snow, a youthful and beautiful face, and a charming demeanor. Anyone who saw her would feel pity. The girl who lied back then looked at me with a pair of watery eyes and cried, "Teacher, I'm so tired and uncomfortable these years." As she said that, she actually threw herself into my arms and apologized one sentence after another. "I'm sorry, I don't want to lie, but my parents said that the matter has become so serious. If I don't say that, they will be sentenced. I'm so scared." Looking at this child who used to be excellent in character and learning, diligent and studious in my eyes, I felt extremely painful and tears welled up in my eyes. I hated myself for still retaining a trace of kindness after going through so many hardships. I am sorry for my wife, and even more sorry for my young and innocent daughters. They died so unjustly. You forgave Jessica and fell in love with her? The police speculated in disbelief. I smiled bitterly and shook my head. No, I just found a new goal to live. Jessica is actually a poor child. When her brother was 15 years old, her parents decided to have another child. A typical big trumpet is useless. Practice small trumpet. Her parents placed all their hopes on her and kept a close eye on her academic performance. At that time, her biggest pressure was the college entrance examination. She cried and complained that she couldn't concentrate on studying in these years. She didn't get into a key high school, and couldn't raise her head in front of her parents. If she failed the college entrance examination again, she felt that she would have no way out. So, I became her private tutor, and I didn't charge her a penny. During her 3 years of high school, she attended classes at school during the day, and I took her to my residence at night. Not only did I cook for her and supplement her nutrition, I also patiently taught her knowledge and answered her questions. Together, we set the goal of getting into Peking University and Tsinghua University. You tutored her for free, and she was successfully admitted to Peking University and Tsinghua University. The policeman was full of suspicion. I nodded affirmatively. What's the purpose? The policeman asked jokingly. Nothing. I am a teacher after all, and I can't refuse a student who is eager to learn and ask questions. I paused and added, it can be said that I am repaying evil with kindness, but it's not entirely. What do you mean? The police looked puzzled. From Jessica's perspective, I was indeed repaying evil with kindness. But from my perspective, this was actually a big chess game that I carefully planned. I did my best to raise Jessica like a daughter. Not only did I help her get into Tsinghua University and Peking University, but during her college years, I also let her participate in various TV programs that can showcase her talents, such as The Brain and Flying Flowers. I let her bloom in front of the camera, let more people see her excellence, and live in the spotlight. I tried my best to let her and the whole world know that she is a princess who is highly regarded and deserves everyone's love and admiration. When she was less than 20 years old, she had earned nearly 10 million yuan in assets through her own efforts and my help. When her classmates were still worrying about their jobs after graduation, she already had 2 companies with thriving profits. When her roommates were deterred by the high housing prices, she already had her own villa. When those alumni who once looked down on her for her rural origin were still asking their parents for money, she had become the economic pillar of the Liu family. She was not only the pride of the Liu family, but also the hope of the entire family. Her brother who used to beat her up now nods and bows when he calls her. Her parents who used to control her no longer dare to impose their ideas on her, and they carefully ask for her opinions on everything. Those distant relatives would show off her wherever they go. When she went home for the Chinese New Year, her peers were still receiving red envelopes, but she prepared precious gifts for everyone. Her youth seemed as brilliant and charming as peach blossoms. Unfortunately, all this is an illusion. She knows in her heart that without my support and advice behind her, she is nothing. If she wants to continue to enjoy all this, she must cling to me like a vine. I always remind her that all the tragedies in my life are due to her lies. It was her, this undisciplined, rotten woman, who got sick at a young age and falsely accused me of it. It was she who killed my wife and daughter, killed her grandmother, and caused me to go to jail. No matter how glorious she is outside, she is just a humble dog in front of me. I asked her to stand, but she didn't dare to sit. I asked her to crawl on the ground, but she didn't dare to roll over. I control everything about her, and she was trained to be obedient by me. You have been controlling her mind since she was 15, making her your puppet and slave? A female police officer was stunned. I couldn't help laughing wildly, but she doesn't realize it, and she feels very happy. In order to marry me, she even wanted to have a child for me. Unfortunately, I said no, so she had to go to the hospital to abort the child. In order to teach her a lesson, I didn't allow her to use anesthesia. Watching the doctor use tools to remove the formed child bit by bit, I made the child into a keychain and hung it on her every day. Even so, she still loved me wholeheartedly. When she took me back to the Liu family to meet her parents, everyone was against it. They saw through my purpose and said that I came for revenge, deliberately approached Jessica, deliberately made her fall in love with me, and then used her to hurt the Liu family. But Jessica turned a deaf ear to her family's warnings. In order to be with me, she was willing to break up with all her relatives. Her face was covered with tears, and she knelt in front of me and begged bitterly, "Please forgive my family. I am willing to repay what the Liu family owes you with my whole life. From now on, I'll be both your wife and your daughter, and I will definitely give you a warm home." Since she said so, I decided to help her. I planned to torture and humiliate her in front of the Liu family, so that they could also taste the pain. But later I found out that the Liu family didn't take Jessica seriously at all. They only cared about how much economic benefits she could bring to the family. It seems that my original plan is unlikely to achieve the expected effect. So you decided to kill his whole family? The police asked sharply. That's right. I have heard that there are two major sad points in sad novels. One is that the birthday becomes a memorial day, and the other is that the wedding becomes a funeral. I just want Jessica to suffer the heavy blow of her family being broken up at the happiest moment, and let her taste the pain of losing her loved ones. Moreover, it was the person she loved the most who killed all her relatives with her own hands, and she was the culprit of all this. The more I thought about it, the more excited I became. The image of Jessica as agony appeared in my mind, and I almost laughed out loud. In the interrogation room, someone could vaguely hear someone cursing dead pervert. The case was explained, and the last step was to identify the scene. Poisoning 28 people is not like poisoning 28 dogs, which requires a certain order. With my hands handcuffed, I walked into the Liu family's courtyard again and described in detail when I put dichlorvos and sleeping pills in the food, when I closed the doors and windows when they were not paying attention, who was poisoned first, what reactions they had after being poisoned, who died first, and who struggled to the end. My confession was basically consistent with the police's on-site criminal investigation results. But the police soon raised questions. Dichlorvos can be bought on the market, but sleeping pills are controlled drugs. How did you get such a large amount? Since you had sleeping pills, why didn't you use them to knock Jessica down, but knock her out with a knife? Did she just watch her family struggle in the house and did nothing? Then there were a few more questions, and I didn't know how to answer them for a while. We believe that you hate the entire Liu family, even the children of a few years old. But Jessica, can you just watch a young nephew die? I quickly interjected, so she was so emotionally agitated that I knocked her out. Emotionally agitated? How excited are you? After taking DDT, sleeping pills, and suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning, the victim might not be able to make too much noise, but Jessica witnessed it all with her own eyes. How could she control her voice when she was emotionally agitated? The nearest neighbor was only a few meters away, but she didn't hear anything. The neighbor called the police because they smelled a strong smell of gasoline and thought something was wrong. So they came to check. This is not common sense. Did you miss some details, or are you lying? The police were indeed professionals, and their analysis was very logical. Before I could explain, Jessica rushed over from the hospital and shouted, "He's lying. He didn't kill them." She looked at me with moist eyes, then stretched out her hands in front of the police. "I killed them. I killed them all." In order to argue about who was the murderer, Jessica and I argued in front of the police, almost fighting. I still couldn't tell the source of the sleeping pills, but Jessica explained it clearly. To kill all 28 people, the amount of sleeping pills required is not small. Even if you pay a high price on the black market, no one can provide so much at one time. Jessica explained that she bought a few pills from various pharmacies each time and accumulated them little by little. Jessica confessed, "I have wanted to kill them for a long time, but I have never found a chance to bring them together. My wedding is the best excuse." The police interrogated Jessica alone and got a lot of information that contradicted my statement. Jessica told them that I never controlled her mentally. On the contrary, I was the best person in the world to her. She recalled that when she was in high school, she had to use her monthly test scores to exchange for living expenses. If she did not do well in the test, she might not even have food to eat the next month. Just when she was most desperate, I appeared like a beam of light, pulling her out of the dark abyss, giving her a bright future and redeeming her from the initial dependence. Her feelings for me slowly sublimated into love. Jessica also said that when I was admitted to Peking University and Tsinghua University, I mustered up the courage to confess my love to her, but she rejected me. In order to sever my love, she left without saying goodbye. In order to find her, I desperately put myself in the spotlight, and I would go all out to fight for any opportunity to appear on TV. I wanted her to know that the reason why she was so outstanding was all because of her existence. Later, she fell in love with me and decided to marry me. She was full of guilt, thinking that she had caused me to lose my most important family, and vowed to repay it with her life and give me a complete family. But they are all ugly and disgusting people. Jessica gritted her teeth. My greedy brother, my indifferent father, my mother who knew she was wrong but refused to change her ways, and a group of relatives who were seeking revenge for me, but were actually satisfying their own selfish desires. They all deserve to die. They are like demons in my heart. Every time I see them, my heart feels like it's being pierced by countless needles. They are also like a group of greedy vampire lions, trying to squeeze me dry. What makes me hate the most is that they actually killed our children. Jessica became more and more excited as she spoke, tears welling up in her eyes. They also said that William approached me on purpose for revenge. But if it was revenge, who would treat another person well without reservation for years? They say I'm possessed by a demon, but I've just grown up and have my own thoughts, judgments, and moral standards. Jessica paused, her voice becoming increasingly choked with sobs. In order to sever our relationship, my parents actually put sleeping pills in the water I drank. When I woke up, I was already lying on the operating table. The doctor took a cold tool and went deep into my body to scrape off our already formed child. At that moment, I swore a poisonous oath in my heart that I must kill them all. As she spoke, she took out an exquisite box containing the child's specimens. I made the child into a specimen and carry it with me at all times, reminding myself every minute and every second that I must not forget the oath to kill them all. After hearing this, the police naturally didn't dare to believe it easily. They suspected that this might be the result of my mental control, so they kept testing Jessica. Do you really know him? A person may be able to lie, but it is difficult to disguise behavior all the time. From the age of 15 to 22, a full 7 years, you saw each other every day most of the time, and even lived together, spending every day and night together. Is there really a liar with such superb acting skills? Jessica retorted emotionally. That's not true. He has always been protecting me, caring for me, and respecting my ideas. Everything he said was to take the blame for me. He poured gasoline to burn the bodies and helped me clean up the mess. On our wedding night, I put sleeping pills in his water, and he fell asleep early. When he woke up and found out I had killed so many people, he was scared, but he didn't call the police. Instead, he chose to protect me and even took the blame on himself. Jessica's remarks were logically clear and more in line with common sense. However, the police still had doubts. Don't you want to marry him and live with him forever? Why did you kill all your relatives on your wedding night? You have become a murderer and may be sentenced to death. How can you stay with him? When Jessica heard this, tears welled up in her eyes. The child is gone, and I don't want to drag him down anymore. The doctor said that the curettage process seriously damaged my uterus, and I will never be able to get pregnant again in this life. I can no longer give William a complete family and return his baby daughter to him. I just want to die with my sinful family and give him a clean and kind world so that he can walk out of the sadness of the past, find a sunny and cheerful girl again, and start a new family. Who can listen to this and not sigh at the powerful power of love brain? But handling cases requires evidence, and not everyone can take the blame. In the end, Jessica was arrested for intentional homicide, and I was detained for obstructing public service. Such a serious criminal case quickly set off an uproar on the internet. As the case was gradually revealed, public opinion reversed like a tide. When the incident first happened, netizens commented, "Staying married and having no children is the best way to stay safe. Women should not marry someone who is above them, but never marry someone who is below them. You should never marry someone your parents don't allow you to marry." Countless netizens were upset for Jessica, thinking that such an excellent person could be deceived by a trash like me. But as my confession was exposed, terms such as mental control quickly became a hot search. Netizens began to discuss, only when you love yourself can you love others. When love makes you lose yourself, it is no longer love. Someone else commented, "No toxicity, no hero." As Jessica's trial progressed, the 2013 molestation case was brought up again by netizens. People began to sympathize with me, but at the same time, they didn't understand why I could still fall in love with Jessica when my wife and daughter died so tragically. I even destroyed evidence, took the blame for her, and even sacrificed my own life to save her. After the trial, Jessica was sentenced to death. She seemed very satisfied with the result and shouted in the court, "I have no regrets. Even if I were given another chance, I would still kill them. They don't deserve to live." She looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Forget me, find another girl you like, get married, have children, and start a new family." I swore on the spot that I would appeal for her. As soon as the news came out, a group of reporters surrounded me like sharks smelling blood, all wanting to dig out some explosive information from me. But I didn't say a word, so everyone started to talk about it, saying that I had Stockholm Syndrome, that I had feelings for the person who hurt me, and turned around to defend the criminal. But I didn't take these discussions seriously at all, and I was too lazy to explain. Later, Jessica voluntarily gave up the appeal and specifically told me to inherit all her property. But I had no interest in the money. I promised to donate the money to charity organizations, hoping to alleviate her guilt. Because of this incident, my experience was made into a story in a book, and I became a legend. Back then, I was successful at a young age and caught up with the internet boom. I successfully entered a large company and became a high-paid programmer. But in my 30s, I resolutely decided to retreat and return to my hometown with my wife and children, thinking that I could make some contributions to my hometown. Who could have expected that I would encounter such a thing, and my originally happy life was destroyed by someone? After that, I was magnanimous and forgave Jessica, and I did my best to train her into an excellent talent. But unexpectedly, she finally chose to perish with her original family. Those netizens who didn't know me felt sorry for me, sympathized with me, and transferred money to me for no apparent reason, earnestly advising me to be strong. This scene was exactly the same as when they transferred money to Jessica. They always thought they were upholding justice, but in fact, they didn't know the truth at all, and they didn't care about the truth. They only wanted to believe what they wanted to believe. Jessica was executed. She had the right to see her relatives. I went to see her off for the last time. I could see that she was afraid of death, but her eyes showed determination. She also advised me, "Forget me as soon as possible, just as if the flowers never bloomed and I never came. I hope you can find someone to spend the rest of your life with soon and live a good life." I sat across from her, looking at her with a look of contempt and confusion, thinking to myself, she was almost dead. Why hadn't she woken up yet? "Why aren't you talking? Don't you have anything to say to me?" She held my hands tightly with both hands, her eyes full of expectation, eager for me to say something. But what could I say? Wish her a safe journey? Or tell her to be careful on the road to the underworld? Or warn her not to lie again in the next life? Finally, I met her request. With a faint smile on my face, I slowly leaned close to her ear and whispered, "You are the most perfect code I have ever written in my life." At that moment, the hatred that had been accumulated in my heart for many years came out like a flood. It felt like all the dirt in my heart was washed away, and I felt extremely relaxed. I stood up, my mind full of images of my wife and daughter, and a deep sense of relief surged in my heart. "Wife, daughter, I have avenged you. All those who have hurt us have paid the price." I felt a long-lost peace, as if the haze in my heart had been swept away. Just as I was about to leave, Jessica frantically shouted from behind, "William, have you ever loved me? Even for a moment?" Her voice tore my heart apart, but I still didn't look back. "No, I never loved you." My voice was as cold as ice, without any fluctuations. In my heart, there is only endless hatred. After saying that, I left without looking back. This time, I really let it go. I no longer have to face her and no longer have to think about those memories that made me sick. Every second and every minute of our time together seemed to have become an indelible stain on my heart. And now, it's finally over.